Hello, Rich Larson here, and I want to welcome you to this month's edition of the IIBA Certification Chat. We are live, and I'm recording this, so you have access to the recording afterwards or to share with colleagues. We've been doing these chats for several years, and it's a great opportunity for us to interact on anything IIBA certification related. Being a third-party vendor, we can give you kind of the straight scoop, and we've been doing CBAP certification longer than anyone else on the planet, so we have built up some credibility, I think, and expertise over the years. Anything from the value certification to applying to studying to passing to recertifying, you name it, anything is fair game. I see one question has come in already. If you haven't had a chance, please send me your name, the location you are in the world, and that'll get you used to using the interface, because that's how we will take in questions from you, and then I just read them out loud. It just has worked the best over the years to do it that way. And if I have a question I may not be able to discern from what your question is, I might shoot a follow-up question back at you, and then you can then follow up with me. So hi, Ben and Fran, I think it was, for joining us. We have people usually from all over the world on these chats, primarily North America, but India, Germany, New Zealand, you name it. People all over the world that have joined in. So I want to welcome you. So the first question that's come in, hi Tiffany from Iowa, right next to Minnesota where Watermark Learning is based. Deborah is asking, I've been reading the Ballpark and taking notes, then storyboarding each chapter, that's cool, recalling the major points in a chapter. I just finished chapter 7. Once I have done this for all the chapters, is it time for me to sign up for the practice testing? I would say so. Here's what I recommend, Deborah, and everybody else. Before you get heavy duty into the practice testing, it's good to go through and absorb the Ballpark, and that's kind of what it sounds like you've been doing. I love your approach, Deborah, in terms of reading the Ballpark that the test is based on, taking your notes, especially I think helps you solidify the information, and doing something like you said, storyboarding. Some people do flow charts, other people make lists. Anything that helps you understand and absorb the Ballpark is great. So at that point, then you shift gears and start getting into more practice testing. And you can continue to absorb the Ballpark by doing drills. Our practice tests have really 3 tests in one. There's a warm-up if you want, but then the drills are good for studying each knowledge area, each chapter of the Ballpark that is, and then lastly simulations to let you practice real life-like things. So I think that's a great idea. Hello, Lori from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to this chat. Deborah's also asking about the Agile addendum. First of all, there are no specific questions from the Agile extension on the CBAP exam. So there will be Agile-based questions, certainly, because there are many techniques as well as an emphasis on both predictive and more change-driven type of approaches. So you'll get questions for sure, but nothing specifically from the Agile extension. So I would not even worry about that, but certainly anything that's in the Ballpark is fair game. Hello, Eric from Springfield, Illinois. Welcome to this chat. Eric is then asking too, for the CBAP course that we offer, does it cover all 35 hours? Yes, it does. You need that for the education requirement. You need to have business analysis training. And what we like to say is with a CBAP prep course, not only can it help you with getting ready to take and pass your exam, but it satisfies those 35 hours that you need for professional development prior to even applying. So bear that in mind, folks, that you need those 35 hours just to apply for the exam. So one approach would be to do some preliminary studying, complete as much of your application as you can, short of the 35 hours. Take a class, then finish your application, because you have then 1 year from the date of the application to finish, and usually that should be enough time. We always recommend, once you take a CBAP prep class, take your exam within 90 days or less while the information's solid. Some people even take it within a couple of weeks, which is a little tight, but certainly 90 days is usually the recommended amount of time to go after taking a prep class to get the maximum from it. Francis is asking, are you going to go over the application process? I certainly can talk about that. We have webinars about that, but the application process, if you just kind of go through a couple of things. First of all, let's look at the overview of ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP. First of all, let me ask this. I've got a couple of polls. I want to find out from you folks. There's probably enough people have logged in by now to get a good survey going. So I want to find out what in particular you're interested in, whether it's CBAP, CCBA, et cetera, or the new IIBA-AAC. Not sure. Just weigh in if you could, and then I will share the results with everybody. So before I answer your question completely, Francis, I wanted to do that. By the way, the slide that you're seeing here comes from a PowerPoint deck, and we're going to give you a copy of that. Actually, it's in your handout section right now of the GoToWebinar toolbar. So make sure you download that. We'll also make it available to you a little bit later. So 75% of voters. I'm going to close the poll and share the results with you all. Yeah, let's see here. Let's just make sure. Yep, the poll is showing 44% CBAP, 44% CCBA, so kind of evenly split this time. A couple ECBA, one or two, a couple more AAC, and some not so sure. So we usually cover any question from any of the certs. So forgetting the AAC for a second, that has a much simpler application process. No experience is really required for that. But for ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP, you see some information on the slide. I'm not going to go over it all, but the target audience here, the work experience is maybe the most daunting part of it. And let me kind of hide the poll now and go to the slide here showing the work experience section. 3,750 hours for CCBA, 7,500 hours for CBAP over either 7 or 10 years. And there's some other knowledge area requirements as well. Specifically for CCBA, you have to have a certain core in at least 2 knowledge areas. There's a lesser amount, 500 spread amongst 4 of them, but what IIBA is looking for here is a little bit more depth than, say, just maybe one area, such as the elicitation or requirements analysis. So for CBAP, you need 900 hours. Let me see if I can get the spotlight thingy working here. You need 900 hours in each of 4 different knowledge areas. So that's an even more stringent requirement, but people meet that for sure. And in the application process, the first thing we always recommend is go to our website and check out our application worksheet. Let me see if I can get this to work here. Getting back to the drawing tools. Normal. Let me see if I can go forward. There we go. Your handout has a series of links. There we go. For a whole bunch of resources available. There are also more specific ones just for the application worksheet so that you are able to go right there and be able to download it. What these worksheets are, and I don't have copies here on purpose, simply because it takes away from maybe some of the other questions people might have, but check out those worksheets because they help you organize your hours not only on project by project basis, but across knowledge areas, totals things up so you makes life a whole lot easier so that you can prepare and then copy the results over into the IIBA website. It's not an exact copy, but it's sure better than just going straight to the IIBA site and typing all your projects in. So back to where we started from, the application process, the most daunting thing is work experience. The other questioner asked about, sorry about that slide jumping around. Somebody else asked about the 35 hours, that's for CBAP. CCBA requires 21 hours and ECBA 21 hours. The other thing that is usually, boy, what should I say? Well, I always call it the critical path, so let's call it that, is that you need 2 references for CCBA and CBAP to attest to your ability as a business analyst. So these references here that are on the slide that says references non-applicable to and to, you need to reach out to people who could be your career manager, a customer that you've interacted with, or a CBAP who can attest to your experience. And that kind of sets this certification apart from some others in that the exams and certifications are more capability based. So then there's some other things you fill out. And I, again, don't want to go too deep into all of this, but I want to cover some of the two things that are the trickiest parts. Hopefully that helps out on that, Francis. So shoot me in any follow-up questions, in particular things that you are concerned about. Again, we have a webinar about the application on our website. Hi, Parul from Atlanta. You're filling out the work experience section. Great. We just got done talking about that. Excellent. I wanted to ask how to divide the hours between the different knowledge areas. You would make your best estimate about how your work applied. So you have to think back on your projects. And so if you're looking back 8 or even 10 years, how would you know? So give your best guess. Maybe you did some upfront planning. You certainly elicited information and requirements, I bet. Did you trace any requirements? That's management. Did you look at current state versus future state? That's strategy analysis. How about doing any modeling or documenting of requirements? That's requirements analysis. So you can kind of translate what you did into the different knowledge areas. It helps to get a hold of the BA body of knowledge first, so you are familiar with the knowledge areas if you don't have that. So then, even with a kind of high level familiarity, you should be able to translate what you did on your projects into those knowledge areas. I say should, I mean, that's obviously an assumption, but in other words, Parul and everybody else, IIBA is not looking for exact records that equate back to those knowledge areas of your work. Your best estimates are acceptable. Eric is asking, for your in-person class in Minnesota, does it include the book and materials that you have recommended on your site? Yes, it does. Our class, as long as you asked, includes a extensive study guide, a very comprehensive study guide to help you interpret and understand the Ballpark. Of course, it gives you slides from the class that you're taking notes on. It also includes many other study aids, including 90 days worth of our online study exam and things like flashcards and study tables. So yes, absolutely contains all of that stuff. So it's a good value, we think. Deborah's saying, am I understanding your strategy correctly that once I've gone through the Ballpark several times to do the prep course and then sign up for the practice testing, is that the correct order? Well, I'm not suggesting you have to do the prep course, but that would be a suggested order, because once you are sort of ready for the 35 hours, you've hopefully maybe gone through the Ballpark before that class. That's usually our suggestion, is that you read the Ballpark at least once. And then the reason I brought up the prep class is if you need 35 hours to even apply, that's the next chunk that comes next. And I think it only makes sense to take a class like that, unless your company's offering 35 hours of training and it doesn't cost any extra, or you're already committed. Obviously that enters into it. But if you don't have those 35 hours, that's why I brought up the test. If you have the 35 hours, you certainly don't have to take a prep course. You could jump right into the study exam, and plenty of people do that. Not everybody, but it depends on your background, your hours accumulated, your ability to absorb information, and so forth. So I don't want to overly generalize, but yeah, Deborah, that's what I'm suggesting. So read Ballpark, prep course, optional. Practice testing is kind of a must, whether it's our tool or some other tool. Marie, hello. Do you know when the CBAP exam will be available in French? That's a great question. I really wish IIBA would have it available. I don't have the answer. You'd have to check with them. Probably the best way, because that's all we would do, we would write them and write to certification@iiba.org, certification@iiba.org, and ask them directly. Suzanne is asking, there's a new option for ECBA Plus. It's a practicum listed on the IIBA side, right? Is there anything you can tell us about this? Well, first of all, IIBA saw the need with some of their customers, particularly consulting companies in India. That's where the focus came from, that wanted a practicum or skills base in addition to ECBA. So that's where it came from. Your second question is, so would it be a good idea to get this ECBA or ECBA Plus prior to taking the CCBA? Well, it depends. I'm going to ask you, Suzanne, how many hours of BA experience do you have? That would be a good place to start. I mean, if you already qualify for CCBA, my advice usually is to zero in on that. The ECBA is a good beginning point for either new business analysts or people that just have a little bit of experience. Maybe you've been a part-time BA, part-time QA, maybe part-time, who knows what else, and just don't have, except maybe a couple hundred hours or even maybe 1,000 hours, whatever. So those kind of situations are better for ECBA. But if you already have extensive BA experience, so maybe you could write me in, Suzanne, and tell me how many hours do you have. I don't usually recommend going to ECBA first. Ben is asking, I'm struggling on how descriptive I need to get when summarizing project work. You don't have to be descriptive. In fact, you don't have very many characters in the IIBA application to be. So how specific and granular should I be? I think I would be very high level and summarize what you did on a, let's say you worked on a project to build a new online interface for applying for a mortgage or something. So that even something as high level as that, I mean, there isn't a lot of room to put in a lot of details, so they don't expect much. In fact, I think maybe that's on purpose, maybe not, but the truth of it is IIBA can't and doesn't want to read essays on these things, so that's good news for us. You can be very high level. A sentence or two should be good. Alyssa's asking, is there a sample populated application we can get a hold of? Oh, I wish there was. IIBA should really give you that to get started with how to document what we've completed. Well, again, Alyssa, maybe you asked me that question before I went over the application spreadsheet. The spreadsheet we have is kind of a proven guide for people to know how to complete the, at least the work experience portion of the application. So I definitely get a hold of that, and then that will guide you, I think, in terms of filling out the details for the hours needed. Suzanne got back to me now after my question to her how many hours of experience. She says she's been a BA for about 10 years, but my company doesn't do things right. Okay, I feel uncomfortable with my experience not being to the book. Well, you know, if you don't feel comfortable jumping into CCBA, that's one thing, but here's a perspective to think about. If you went for the CCBA, and I bet you would have enough experience in those 10 years to qualify, that it would teach you something, teach you a lot probably about the kind of generally accepted practice of business analysis. What I love about certifications is the amount of learning that you do. I mean, of course, I'm in the learning business, being a training company operator for many, many years, 26 plus years, in fact. So I like to joke that I'm kind of a professional student in that regard because I love learning. So certifications really focus you on that. And I think it's a great learning opportunity for everyone. And that said, you could use that as a learning opportunity to jump into the CCBA. Depends on your kind of approach and caution, whatever. You certainly could start with ECBA as a stepping stone. So, I mean, it just takes, every certification takes some time and planning and work and practice. So that's the other perspective. Depends on your time horizon, right? Maybe I tend to be more impatient than average, so that's why I would jump into the CCBA. But maybe if you're a patient person, maybe you want to do things right, start with that ECBA and go up. to CCBA next, but it could, so take a look inwardly about yourself and look at your career horizons. Where do you want to be, and how close are you to the CBAP, the CBAP? How close are you to the 7,500 hours? So maybe you start with getting hold of our application worksheet and then going from there. So shoot me in a note, anybody, if you think it'd be useful for me to poke around and find a copy of that spreadsheet and go over it with you all. Vaish is asking, does IIBA recognize conference hours toward the 35 PD requirement, or is it purely active training time? It is purely active training time. Normal PDU, CDUs do not count. So conferences, chapter meetings, self-study doesn't work. It's got to be training, and it's got to be training on business analysis. Eric is asking, how long after submitting the application should I expect IIBA to get back to me and let me know if I can sit for the exam? It varies, but generally people hear within a couple, 3 days. So it's pretty fast for them, generally speaking. They may get a backlog, a bottleneck of applications. Or maybe a vacation pops up, but generally speaking, it's pretty fast. Vayesh is asking again, do the hours earned during, oh, okay. No, I think I answered that question about the hours for conferences. They do not count. Parul is saying I'd attend a webinar on this worksheet guide. Well, maybe what we should do is schedule a webinar shortly on that to go over the application. You folks are all on our mailing list, and so we do let you know where events are, like you heard about this, or maybe from social media, so that you are definitely on the list, so we can help out with that. What I'll also do, I'm going to make a note to on our follow-up email after this with the application spreadsheet. If you would find it helpful, we can even send you a copy of our application spreadsheet after this, because we always do a follow-up after these chats. So I can send applications with the chat follow-up. I'm taking notes here, and I might also look for other resources on the application to send along with that. So we'll do some follow-up after this chat to help you guys out. Yeah, I hope I didn't pronounce your name wrong. You have the CBAP scheduled on December 20th. Well, hey, good for you. That's coming up. That's just a few days from now. 12 days, exactly, you say, to bring myself to speed. Good for you. When I test myself, I stand at 50%. I'd do some more studying at that rate. I'm currently working on practice exams. When I make a mistake, I go back to the Ballpark. That's good. Or to the Watermark Learning Guide. That's good too. So what we've designed our online study exam to do is pinpoint the part of the BABOK where we took the information that was the basis for our questioning you. Pretty much is what the test creators do, from my understanding. They use elements of the BABOK and then massage that knowledge into questions. We give you a pinpoint reference to go back and study those areas. So if you're not getting questions correct, we can help you focus on the part of the BABOK and then jump over to our study guide for more information, and that's a good approach. I think you need to do some more work. You've got a lot more studying to do, I think, if you're getting 50%. I don't want to scare you, but I'd hate to see you fail too. You still have 12 days, so you have an opportunity. So I'm going to ask you, did you read the entire BABOK cover to cover yet? And that's always something I recommend. Even with our study guide, you need to read the BABOK as well. The other thing about studying, you're saying, I'm not sure if this is the right way to prepare. Also, if December 20th would be the realistic date to take the exam. Well, my question back to you, can you postpone the exam? Because maybe you want to do some more studying. I seriously would ask. Let me bring up this slide. To give you some guidance, those of you that are going to be taking the exam, first of all, for CBAP, this is more true and somewhat true for CCBA as well. About 100 hours on average from a couple surveys we've done, it takes people to prepare and feel comfortable to pass their exam. So from start to finish, all your reading of the Ballpark, any practice tests, classes, 100 hours total. And we all, 2 is what I was just talking about reading the Ballpark at least once. Even if you get our study guide. Step 3 is to study one chapter at a time and do practice tests based on that. That's actually do drill questions. We have a drill element, so you can zero in on the chapters you're studying. I think I mentioned that already. Here's where I would get concerned, Soumya. If your scores are less than 80%, you want to go back and study the chapter, do more drills, and keep kind of repeating. Make sure you finish all the Ballpark sections, because once you're done with all those sections and you get your scores closer to 80%, then start doing simulations. Those are realistic situations for CBAP, 120 questions. They're timed, so you can see how you're doing time-wise, because that can trip people up. You should do at least one speed test before you're done. By that, I mean, you just simply go through start to finish to see how long it takes you to answer questions, to see how long it takes you to get through 120 questions. And again, if your scores are less than 80%, go back and study a chapter that you are low on. The other thing too is closer to the exam, get plenty of rest. It's better to do that the night before your exam rather than cramming last minute. You're better off with a well-rested brain. You'll be tested well as well. But a well-rested brain is going to get you better scores than that last-minute cramming. The other thing we always recommend, and our book talks about this, and certainly in our classes, is to do a brain dump at the start. What its primary purpose is to reduce your test anxiety, not to be a crib sheet, although it can do that too. I like noting down any kind of high-level things I've memorized, any mnemonics that really would help me remember certain either knowledge areas, tasks, techniques, or elements. But the big thing is focusing and getting out your anxiety as much as you can before the start. The last tip, and I really want to stress this guy, number 10, is to skip over any difficult questions when you take your exam. So this is when you're in that exam booth. The tension is high. Hopefully you've relieved some test anxiety by doing that brain dump. And then the first question is really, really tricky, let's say. Skip it. You can always go back to it. You only increase your anxiety by fretting and really stressing over a hard question. And if I was to test people, I would put the hard questions right up front to try to trip you up. So skip over those hard ones until you get a question that is easier. Guaranteed you're going to have those. So go all the way through and then go back later and you can fill in the ones you missed. Even if it takes 2 or 3 times through, it's a great strategy. I am firmly believe in. Okay, back to it. All right, so Soumya, all the best, whatever you decide to do. Does IIBA need to hear back from references before approving an application or exam? Yes, they do. So the thing is, get your references done first. So thank you for bringing that up, Alyssa, because I think the process can be quick because it's all done through email. However, if you brief your references up front, that'll help them to be expecting an email from IIBA and to then do that first. So you can do the application in different chunks. So the first thing I would do is your references. Meg is asking, what's a passing grade? We guess it's about 70%. We don't know. IBA and PMI and those kind of bodies never release that, to my knowledge, or if they do, it's kind of hidden. So expect about 70%. That's why we recommend the 80% that I do. So Soumya, thank you for confirming that you read the Ballpark. We're at the bottom of the hour, and I'm going to keep going because I usually like to do that. And You'll have access to the recording if you have to leave now, because we usually schedule these as half-hour chunks, and I'll finish any questions you guys have. So check the recording if you have to leave now. Thank you for attending, and look for follow-up from us, and then you can hear any questions you might have missed. So Vaish is saying, I'm sorry if this is asked already, can you ballpark an approximate time frame for how long it takes to get through the application process? It could be a matter of a couple of days to several weeks, depending on how long your references take to get back to IIBA. It doesn't necessarily take that long to enter. You can do all that in a day. You can enter all the information, including your work history. I think add in a couple more days, perhaps, to gather that work history, but actually, logging in and entering that stuff can be done in, a few hours. Your group is planning on a prep course, but I don't think they've really accounted for the application process. That's probably true, Vaish. So if you're planning on that course, maybe suggest that you get the application done first. We always recommend that, at least kind of getting the application up to a certain point. And if you're going to count on the 35 hours, of course, you can't finish it till the course is done, but at least you can get a lot of that work done. Many people procrastinate and put that off until after a class, and then that only slows things down. Yeah, Soumya is asking, are copies of the slides can be emailed? Yes, they are, but you also can go right now to GoToWebinar and grab them and download them if you want them. They're on the toolbar. Lori is saying, can you provide any information about your virtual class training? I sure can. The classes are, well, I actually have two different kinds of online training, Lori. One is a live virtual class, so that they meet either in half-day or full-day chunks, spread over usually a couple of weeks. And then you have access to recordings for 90 days after that. So it's like if you miss one of the segments, you can always catch up, or just they're great for review. The recorded portions of classes are also available as what we call anytime learning. And you can truly take those at your own pace. So the virtual learning has live sessions, and you can review those recordings at your own pace, but then the anytime learning is usually discounted, well, it's always discounted, and you can take that at your own pace on your own schedule. And we sell those in 90-day subscriptions. Both of those models also, like the live or in-person classes, have access to all of the slides from class, the study guide, study exam, and the other study aids that I mentioned before. So hopefully that helps, Lori. Hope to see you in one of the classes soon. We have a waiting list for our class right now in December. But so check with us if you really want to get into that one. We can work on getting you in there. Otherwise, the next one is February 4th. So hope to see you in one of those classes. Thanks for attending. Thanks. So any last questions, make sure you shoot them in now so we can get them done and get them into the recording. Otherwise, we will be back again in a month for the next one. I'm really glad you guys were able to attend. I want to wish you all the best for your certification results. Any other last questions here about? Eric is saying, how quickly do the in-person classes fill up? It varies. We would love to fill them up months in advance, but a lot of times they fill up last minute. So I wouldn't wait till the end. We're very pleased that we filled our December one up. But that could be like the end of year. People are maybe trying to get their training in at the end of the year, perhaps. So you probably have time, but I think if you really want to make sure you're in, then I'd sign up now, I guess, like anything else. Suzanne, you're welcome. Glad you could attend. I'm glad you liked the information. Meg is asking, what's the exam blueprint? Exam blueprint is this. It shows you for the different certifications, and I can show you one for IIBA-AAC as well, the kind of areas of knowledge that you have to study to pass. Let's take CBAP as an example. So the knowledge areas are here on the left, and so 14% of the questions come from BA planning and monitoring, or roughly 21 questions on the CBAP exam. 12% from elicitation. Requirements lifecycle management 15%, which is, you round it, it's 22 to 23, depending on how they round. Strategy analysis, same way, all up and down the line. You can see that requirements analysis is the most at 30%. Anyway, The questions add up to 120 questions. IIBA just publishes a percent. They don't give the exact number. We just did the math to make it easy, more concrete. And by the way, our online study exam uses this blueprint, and we've got a database to tell our software to pull the questions from our exam bank according to these same percentages when you do simulations. So we try to and succeed at emulating what the real exam will do for you as far as the numbers. So that's the blueprint. Hope that answers your question. So shoot me back any more questions. Francis, is the only difference between the CCBA and CBAP the work experience piece? Well, as far as the application, yes. The exam is slightly different. There are 130 questions with some different percentages, as you can see here. There is also a difference on the exam itself. Let me see if I can go to webinar. Drives me nuts because then I can't get back to the slide without stopping my little red bulb. If you take a look toward the bottom, the difference in questions is that with CCBA, you have some knowledge-based questions, but you also have scenario-based questions with a short, like a paragraph, followed by 3 to 5 questions based on that short scenario. And now the CBAP exam has those too, but they also have longer case study based questions. These are several paragraphs in length. IIBA says a page to a page and a half, which is roughly 400 to 700 words of text or graphics or both. And then again, 3 to 5 questions based on those. So 1/3 of the exam or more is based on those case studies. So I know you were asking about the application, I think, but other than the work experience hours, the exam itself is a little bit different. So I want to point that out. Thanks for that, Francis. So, all right, guys, I'm going to close up the chat for now. I don't see any more questions. Thank you very much. Keep tuned to our emails as far as when we might schedule another webinar, certainly the next chat session. All the best on getting your certification dreams fulfilled, and hopefully we can help you out with tools and training to help you get there, as well as these chat sessions and our other information. So look for a follow-up from us. Thanks, guys, and everybody have a very happy holiday. You're welcome, Vice. I'm glad this is helpful. That's why we do it. So peace, everybody. Bye-bye.